ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters in Christ. Today I want to talk about something that changed my life forever. Something so powerful, so divinely orchestrated, that the moment I declared it, the universe had to obey. My topic today is, I became a multi-billionaire the moment I said it. With just one declaration. You see, there's a divine law that Florence Scovel Shinn taught us, a spiritual principle that transcends time, logic, and even the physical realm. It's the law of the spoken word, the belief that what you boldly declare in faith, you magnetize into your life. When I stood in the mirror, with nothing in my bank account, no network, no roadmap, but only a fire in my spirit and a word on my tongue, I didn't beg, I didn't hope, I declared. And in that declaration, heaven responded. Today, I'm not just here to inspire you. I'm here to awaken you. To remind you of your God-given authority. To show you that you are not waiting on a miracle. The miracle is waiting on your word. Because the moment you say it with faith, backed by divine alignment, everything begins to shift. Let's journey together through this revelation. Because that one declaration, it wasn't magic. It was spiritual law in motion. The power of the spoken word is not just a poetic idea. It is a divine law, a spiritual force that has been working since the beginning of time. When God created the heavens and the earth, He didn't use tools or materials. He spoke it into existence. Let there be light. And there was light. That same creative power, that divine authority, has been passed down to us. Florence Scovel Shinn taught that your word is your wand. That what you consistently speak becomes the foundation of your reality. This is not simply positive thinking, this is spiritual science. When you speak with intention, belief, and authority, you activate forces both seen and unseen to bring that word into form. Most people don't realize that they are living today in the exact world they've been speaking over themselves for years. Words like, I'll never make it. I'm always broke. Success isn't for people like me. These phrases sound harmless, but they are powerful affirmations. Every time you speak, you cast a vote for your future. Your subconscious mind is always listening, and so is the universe. And more importantly, the divine realm responds to bold declarations of faith. Your words are not just sounds. They are commands, signals, seeds that eventually grow into experiences. When I stood in front of that mirror and said, I am a multi-billionaire, I wasn't lying to myself. I was activating a spiritual law. I was speaking into the invisible realm and commanding it to align with what I had seen in my spirit. I wasn't waiting for evidence. I was creating it. The spoken word carries frequency, vibration, and intention. When you speak with authority, backed by belief, the universe has no choice but to respond. You must understand that the word comes deaf before the manifestation. You don't speak it because it's real. You speak it to make it real. Florence Scovel Shinn said, man's word is his wand filled with magic and power. But most people use that wand unconsciously, waving it in chaos and fear. They curse their own finances, their own relationships, their own future. They don't realize that every I can't. Every I'm stuck. Every I'm tired of this life is programming their future with more of the same. But the moment you wake up and take responsibility for your words, everything changes. When you start speaking life, abundance, joy, and success, even when you don't see it, you begin rewriting the script of your existence. This isn't about pretending. It's about prophesying. The words you speak consistently become the beliefs you hold, and the beliefs you hold shape the actions you take. And actions shape outcomes. That's how the spiritual and physical dimensions link together. When I declared I was a multi-billionaire, I didn't just say it once. I said it daily, with conviction, as if heaven itself had already issued the decree. I didn't wait for circumstances to validate it. I made the declaration and let the circumstances catch up. The truth is, you don't get what you want. You get what you say. What you say, with belief and repetition, becomes your truth. And if your words are rooted in fear, doubt, or limitation, then your reality will reflect that. But if your words are rooted in divine authority, bold vision, and unwavering faith, then your life begins to reflect that too. The universe is not punishing you, it's responding to your language. And this isn't just about money. It's about everything. Healing, love, peace, purpose, whatever you want to experience must be spoken first. Because in speaking it, you make it real. Florence Scovel Shinn reminded us that every word we speak is a boomerang. It comes back to us, multiplied. If we speak lack, lack returns. If we speak increase, increase begins to move toward us. This is why it's so important to guard your tongue. Not just in moments of prayer or affirmation, but all day long. Every casual statement is a declaration. Every joke, every complaint, every story you tell yourself becomes a part of the energetic and spiritual blueprint you're living from. When you understand this, you start to take your words seriously. You start to speak on purpose. You stop agreeing with limitation and start partnering with possibility, and you'll notice something powerful happens. Your environment begins to shift. Opportunities come. People show up. Doors open. It seems magical, but it's not. It's the law in motion. Your word truly is your wand, and you are the magician of your own life. Faith is the currency of heaven. This means that faith is the medium of exchange in the spiritual realm. In the world, we use dollars, rupees, euros to buy goods and services, but in the kingdom of God, faith is the substance that unlocks divine resources. When you want something from heaven, healing, abundance, opportunity, favor, you don't pay for it with effort, with anxiety, or with credentials. You receive it by faith. And not just by believing quietly in your heart, but by speaking your faith into the atmosphere. Because faith, when it is real, speaks, it declares. It goes ahead of the evidence and boldly claims what the natural eyes cannot yet see. Florence Scovel Shinn emphasized again and again that we do not have to beg for what is already ours. She taught that our divine inheritance is waiting on us, not to struggle, but to believe. And faith isn't passive. Faith is bold. Faith is an action, and one of the greatest actions of faith is the spoken word. When you declare something in faith, without seeing the outcome yet, you are making a heavenly transaction. You are reaching into the invisible and drawing it into the visible. You are pulling down what already exists in spirit and commanding it to manifest in your world. When I made that declaration, I am a multi-billionaire, I didn't say it because I had evidence. I said it because I had faith. I understood that in the kingdom of heaven, faith is more real than facts. Facts may say you're broke, your bank account is empty, your opportunities are few. But faith says you are rich, you are blessed, you are backed by divine supply. And once you choose to believe that, your words must match your belief. Because faith that doesn't speak is not yet full. It's still growing. Mature faith opens its mouth and speaks the result before it arrives. The world teaches us to wait. Wait until the conditions are right. Wait until the loan is approved. Wait until someone gives you permission. But the Spirit doesn't operate on delay, it operates on now. Faith is always now, and your declaration has to match that urgency. You don't say, I will be successful one day. You say, I am successful now. Even if you're living in a small room, even if no one knows your name, even if your business hasn't started yet, faith ignores what's missing and speaks what's coming. Because in God's reality, it's already done. When Florence said, your word is your wand, she didn't mean that the word by itself works like a spell. She meant that your word, spoken in faith, activates a spiritual chain reaction. Faith is what gives your words power. Anyone can repeat affirmations. But affirmations without belief are just noise. What makes the spoken word magnetic is the energy of faith behind it. The belief that what you're saying is not only possible, but already true in the higher realm. And when you speak from that level of conviction, mountains move. There were times when I had nothing but a vision. I had no income, no connections, no blueprint. But I had faith, and I spoke as if I already had it. I didn't ask the universe for permission. I declared my position, because I understood I wasn't speaking from lack. I was speaking from inheritance. I wasn't hoping, I was claiming. There's a big difference. Hope is waiting, but faith is walking. Hope says, maybe someday. Faith says, it is mine now. And when you begin to operate at that level, everything begins to rearrange itself to match your words. Faith also requires persistence. It's not a one-time statement. It's a lifestyle. You keep speaking even when nothing looks different. You speak it when you're tired. You speak it when you're misunderstood. You speak it when people laugh. Because every time you speak in faith, you're releasing energy into the atmosphere. You're planting seeds in the spiritual soil. And just like a farmer doesn't doubt the harvest once he plants the seed, you don't doubt your results once you've declared them in faith. Doubt is expensive in the spirit. It drains your account. It weakens your word. And it invites delay. But faith fills the atmosphere with certainty. It demands response. It pulls resources toward you. It aligns people, places, and events to serve your declaration. Because heaven recognizes faith. Heaven responds to faith. When you speak in faith, you're not talking to empty air. You're activating divine law. You're sending out instructions to angels, to energy, to possibility itself. Florence Scovel Shinn didn't tell us to speak after the miracle. She taught us to speak before. Because speaking is what brings the miracle forth. Faith is not reactionary. It is creative. It doesn't wait to be proven right. It becomes the proof. And when your faith becomes strong enough, you realize you don't need signs. You don't need confirmations. You are the sign. Your voice becomes the evidence. Your declaration becomes the foundation. That's how faith works. It goes first. Your words create your world. This is a truth so profound that most people miss its power entirely. Every reality you've lived, every circumstance you've experienced, and every door that's opened or remained closed has been shaped in some way by the words that have come out of your mouth. Florence Scovel Shinn taught us that our spoken words carry a vibrational energy that returns to us, multiplied and manifested. The words you speak aren't just reflections of what you see. They are blueprints of what's to come. When you align your speech with your vision, you become an architect of destiny rather than a reporter of circumstances. Most people talk about what it is. They describe their problems, echo their pain, and rehearse their limitations. They say things like, "It's hard to make money. No one supports me. I never get lucky." What they don't realize is that in doing so, they are reinforcing and recreating those very outcomes. The more you talk about lack, the more lack you invite. The more you speak about struggle, the deeper into struggle you go. That's not superstition. That's spiritual science. Your words are energetic commands that shape the environment around you. On the other hand, when you begin to speak in alignment with your highest vision, when you begin to declare the life you want, even before it looks real, you create a new vibrational pattern that heaven, the universe, and your subconscious mind begin to follow. You're no longer echoing your history, you're designing your future. It's easy to say what you see, but real power comes when you start saying what you want to see. That's how you shift from living by sight to living by faith. And faith, as we know, is the substance of things hoped for and the evidence of things not seen. When I started to say, I am a multi-billionaire, it wasn't because I had the billions in hand. It was because I had seen the vision, and I chose to speak from that reality. I chose to align my language with the outcome I desired rather than the situation I was in. That's what Florence Scovel Shinn meant when she said that every word is a mold that shapes your experience. Words are seeds. And when you plant the right seeds with your speech, the harvest becomes inevitable. The world will always offer you reasons to speak negatively. You'll have moments of pressure, seasons of delay, circumstances that make you feel small. But what you say in those moments matters more than you think. Because when you choose to speak life in the face of lack, strength in the face of weakness, wealth in the face of poverty, you override the natural with the supernatural. Your words become instruments of creation. You're not waiting for a breakthrough, you're speaking it into motion. What you continually speak, you begin to believe. And what you believe, you begin to live. That's the cycle. So the more you speak abundance, the more your mind aligns with it. Your decisions shift, your energy shifts, your opportunities shift, and people respond to you differently because the frequency you're sending out has changed. That's the invisible force of aligned speech. It creates an atmosphere that supports your vision. It magnetizes everything that matches your words and repels everything that doesn't. You also have to be mindful of the conversations you engage in. If you're constantly surrounded by people who speak fear, gossip, and defeat, you'll begin to absorb those patterns unconsciously. Protect your language by protecting your environment. Surround yourself with people who speak vision, power, growth, and divine possibility. Speak life over your money. Speak peace over your mind. Speak clarity over your business. Speak favor over your name. Every time you speak from vision, you build a bridge between your present and your destiny. Florence Scovel Shinn said, "Man can only receive what he sees himself receiving." But you don't just see it in your imagination. You see it in your speech. Because when you speak it consistently, your inner world starts to adapt. Your emotions begin to align. Your creativity expands. Your boldness increases. Your spiritual authority grows. And suddenly, you're no longer reacting to the world around you. You're shaping it. The truth is, your world is your word in form. If you want to change your world, change your words. Speak not from your wounds but from your wisdom. Don't repeat the old story, write a new one with your mouth. Your declaration is your divine pen, and every sentence you speak becomes a chapter in the life you're creating. When your speech becomes intentional, visionary, and aligned with divine truth, nothing can stop the manifestation. You don't need to chase. What you speak will begin to chase you. Break the mental ceiling, declare what seems impossible. That statement is more than motivational. It's spiritual strategy. Every limitation in your life begins in the mind. Before it becomes a barrier in the physical world, it exists as a belief, a pattern, a thought you've repeated until it became a boundary. Florence Scovel Shinn taught that the subconscious mind accepts every word, an idea you consistently feed it, whether positive or negative. And the real ceiling in most people's lives isn't money, background, or education. It's the mental walls they've built from years of doubt, fear, and failure. But when you declare the impossible, when you speak what your logic can't comprehend, you begin to tear down that ceiling and open up the realm of miracles. The reason most people never rise is because they only declare what they think is realistic. They say things like, "I just want to get by," or "I hope I can earn enough to survive." That kind of language is rooted in limitation, and it keeps you trapped under a ceiling you were never meant to live beneath. God didn't create you to play small. He created you to partner with divine abundance, to reflect His limitless power. But to access that, you have to start talking differently. You have to stretch your language to match your spiritual inheritance, not your present conditions. When I began to say, "I am a multi-billionaire," it wasn't because I had proof. It was because I had broken the mental ceiling that told me I was only allowed to make a certain amount, that my background limited my future, that wealth was reserved for someone else. I understood that the moment I said something outrageous in faith, I shocked my subconscious out of its comfort zone. I gave my spirit something bigger to rise to. And that declaration began to rearrange everything, not just my mindset, but my reality. Florence often said that your word is your wand, but most people wave it in circles that never take them higher. They declare goals they think they can reach on their own, goals that don't scare them, goals that don't require divine intervention. But when you declare what seems humanly impossible, you invite God into the equation. You shift from self-reliance to spiritual partnership, and in that partnership, the laws of possibility are rewritten. What seemed out of reach suddenly becomes your new normal. Not because you forced it, but because you declared it and allowed the divine to respond. To break the mental ceiling, you also have to challenge the internal dialogue that tells you, "This is too much," or "I don't deserve that." Those voices are echoes of past pain, failure, or someone else's fear. They're not truth, they're programming, and the only way to override old programming is to install a new script, one built on faith, not fear. When you say, "I will own global businesses," "I will create generational wealth," or "I will give away millions in charity," you are not being delusional. You are being spiritually obedient. Because the kingdom of God operates on bold faith, not cautious calculation. The more impossible your declaration sounds, the more powerful its impact. That's why Florence emphasized the importance of claiming your good with confidence. She didn't say, "Whisper your goals." She said, "Claim them. Speak them clearly, loudly, often." Let your declaration become your dominant conversation, not just once in the morning, and then worry the rest of the day, but continually, like a warrior sharpening a sword. Because your words are weapons against doubt. Every time you speak what seems too big, you slice through the mental barriers that have held you captive. Some people worry that if they speak something bold, and it doesn't happen right away, they'll look foolish. But the spiritual realm doesn't respond to ego, it responds to faith. You weren't called to impress people. You were called to demonstrate divine truth. And the truth is, nothing is impossible to the one who believes. So when you open your mouth and say what others are afraid to say, you set a new spiritual tone for your life. You begin to resonate on a higher frequency. You become a magnet for miracles because your faith has made room for them. Even your body and behavior begin to align with bold declarations. You carry yourself differently. You make decisions from a place of vision instead of fear. You stop settling for crumbs and start expecting overflow. That's what happens when the mental ceiling breaks. You see yourself differently. You no longer tolerate environments, relationships, or habits that keep you stuck. Your declaration rewires your identity, and once your identity shifts, your destiny follows. To break the mental ceiling, you also have to silence the voices of others. Family, friends, teachers, society. They all have limits they may try to place on you. But your future is not up for debate. It's not decided by a vote. It's determined by what you declare in faith. The question is never, "Is it too much?" The question is, "Do I believe God can do it?" And if the answer is yes, then speak it. Declare it. Liven it. Mentally, spiritually, emotionally. Before it shows up physically. Because once you break the ceiling in your mind, the world below it can no longer hold you. Spiritual laws override natural limitations. That's a principle Florence Scovel Shinn taught with clarity, and it is a truth that governs every breakthrough that seems impossible by worldly standards. We are not limited by what we see, feel, or experience in the natural realm. The laws of the Spirit are higher, greater, and more powerful than the laws of the world. While the natural world says you must climb step by step, earn everything slowly, and accept boundaries set by society or circumstance, spiritual law says that faith, word, and divine alignment can catapult you into places that defy logic. What takes man decades, God can do in a day. And it begins with understanding and operating within spiritual laws. Most people live only by what they can touch, measure, or explain. They look at bank statements, job offers, market trends, and think those are the final authorities. But spiritual law says otherwise. The divine operates in the unseen first. The physical world is the slowest, final layer of reality. What you see is just a shadow of what has already been shaped in the spirit. When you operate with that mindset, you stop being intimidated by lack, delays, or impossibilities. You realize that what the world calls a limitation is simply a stage for spiritual law to manifest its power. Florence taught the law of expectancy, the law of substitution, the law of non-resistance, and most importantly, the law of the spoken word. These laws function whether you acknowledge them or not, just like gravity. But when you begin to consciously align yourself with them, you stop trying to force results through effort alone, and start allowing divine flow to carry you. You move into a rhythm of trust, declaration, and surrender. You don't work harder, you speak with more authority. You don't chase outcomes, you create space for them to manifest through faith and obedience. When I declared I was a multi-billionaire, it wasn't a prediction. It was a spiritual transaction. I activated a law that superseded my current circumstances. Natural law said I didn't have enough education, capital, or support. But spiritual law said, as he thinks in his heart, so is he. The declaration wasn't just positive thinking, it was alignment with divine truth. In that moment, I stepped out of limitation and into inheritance. And the results didn't appear instantly, but the shift was immediate. The atmosphere changed, the opportunities began to align, the favor began to multiply. Because spiritual law was now in motion. The world may say that success requires years of networking, thousands in startup money, or a degree from the right institution. But spiritual law says one word, one moment of obedience, one bold act of faith can open doors no man can shut. The key is not to conform to the world's formula, but to submit to divine law. And that requires courage. Because spiritual law will often ask you to believe in what you cannot see, to declare what sounds crazy, and to stand firm when the evidence looks opposite. That's not delusion, that's obedience to a higher order. Think of a plane defying gravity. Gravity is a law, but the law of lift overrides it. In the same way, natural limitations may be real, but spiritual law is higher. Just like lift makes flight possible, spiritual law makes miracles possible. It's not magic, it's alignment. When you speak in faith, when you visualize in belief, when you act with boldness, you are activating higher laws that override natural constraints. And those who understand this stop waiting for the world's permission. They stop begging for opportunities. They speak, move, and expect in ways that baffle others because they know who backs them. Florence said, "The game of life is a game of boomerangs." Our thoughts, deeds, and words return to us sooner or later, with astounding accuracy. This is a reflection of spiritual law. Everything you put into the spiritual realm through thought, word, and action comes back to you. If you send out fear, it returns. If you send out faith, it returns. When you declare your wealth, health, purpose, and destiny, not from desperation but from conviction, you release forces that begin shaping your future. You don't have to know how. The law takes care of the how. Your role is to obey, to declare, to align. This is why spiritual law requires discipline. You can't speak abundance in the morning and complain about lack in the afternoon. You can't declare healing and then rehearse symptoms. You can't visualize success and then feed fear. Spiritual law is precise. It responds to consistency. The more aligned your thoughts, words, and beliefs are with divine truth, the faster the manifestation comes. You begin to realize that the world outside of you bends to the world inside of you. And when your inner world is governed by spiritual laws, your outer world becomes a reflection of divine order. Natural limitations will always try to speak louder. Bills, deadlines, rejections, delays. They will all try to convince you that nothing's changing. But when you understand spiritual law, you stop reacting to what's loud and start responding to what's true. You don't allow what's visible to define what's possible. You speak from a higher place, a place of power and peace. You start walking in expectation. You start planning based on your declaration. You start living as if it's already done, not because of arrogance, but because of alignment with eternal principles. One divine declaration can rewrite your destiny. That's not just poetic language, it's a spiritual reality, backed by timeless truth. The entire course of your life can shift with a single sentence spoken in bold, unwavering faith. Florence Scovel Shinn taught that words are powerful forces that go out and create what you declare. The spoken word, infused with divine belief, carries a frequency that can break generational cycles, shift financial realities, restore health, and open doors no man can shut. It only takes one moment, one sentence, one declaration from a place of spiritual authority to ignite a destiny that had been lying dormant. We often think change has to be gradual, that transformation takes years, and that breakthrough must follow a long, hard struggle. But spiritual law doesn't operate according to the world's timeline. A divine declaration doesn't work because of how long you say it. It works because of the spirit behind it. When a declaration is spoken from a place of divine identity, spiritual certainty, and alignment with higher truth, it becomes the seed of a new life. One seed contains an entire harvest. One sentence, when spoken in truth, can shift every system and pattern surrounding you. When I stood in front of the mirror and declared, "I am a multi-billionaire," I wasn't repeating a wish. I was speaking a divine identity. That moment was the spark. It was the planting of a seed into the soil of the spirit. Nothing around me looked different at first. The room didn't change, my bank account didn't double, and no applause followed. But something within me shifted. That one sentence rewrote how I saw myself. It adjusted the frequency of my mind. It realigned my beliefs. And slowly, surely, reality had no choice but to follow the voice I had released into the atmosphere. Florence taught that what you feel deeply and consistently declare with your mouth will manifest in your life. But most people don't declare what they desire. They rehearse what they fear. They talk more about the problem than the promise. They magnify the mountain instead of speaking to it. And that's why their destiny stays locked. You don't move toward what you want. You move toward what you say. Your words carve the path your feet will follow. And when you decide to make a divine declaration, you are telling heaven, hell, and the earth, "This is who I am. This is where I'm going, and nothing can stop it." A divine declaration is not about hype or noise. It's not about shouting or being loud. It's about clarity, faith, and agreement with spiritual truth. When your words line up with divine law, they carry creative power. They don't just express hope. They release intention. You become a co-creator with God. Your declaration becomes a written contract in the spiritual realm. And that contract will draw every resource, every opportunity, every person, and every miracle needed to bring it to pass. That's why one declaration can do more than a decade of hustle. It doesn't matter how many odds are stacked against you. When you say something like, "I am financially free," "I am divinely favored," or "My business is a global success," you are not describing your current condition. You're establishing your future foundation. You are speaking from a higher realm. And in that moment, your words begin reprogramming your inner world, which is always the first world that must change. Once your inner world shifts, your decisions shift, your energy shifts, and the outer world adjusts to follow suit. It only takes one declaration to shift your trajectory. A declaration that cancels years of negative self-talk. A declaration that ends the story of poverty, fear, and shame. A declaration that doesn't ask for permission. It claims divine promise. But here's the key: the power isn't just in saying it once. It's in owning it daily. That one declaration becomes your new truth. You wake up and speak it. You face adversity and speak it. You celebrate and speak it. It becomes the anthem of your life. It becomes the voice your destiny learns to follow. Florence said, "Man can only receive what he sees himself receiving." And how do you begin to see it? By saying it. Your declaration paints the picture. The more you say it, the more real it becomes in your imagination. And once it's real in your imagination, it begins to take shape in your reality. That one statement you make in faith sets off a chain reaction. You start attracting different people. You see different choices. You notice divine nudges. Because you've shifted into alignment with what you've declared. Even when resistance shows up, your declaration stands as a banner. It reminds you who you are. It pulls you through obstacles. It silences doubt. One divine declaration doesn't just change what you expect, it changes who you become. You're no longer a victim of circumstances. You're a steward of vision. You carry yourself differently. You no longer settle for less than what matches your word. And the world begins to respond to your new vibration, because your declaration has placed a demand on the unseen. One divine declaration is a doorway. It's not just a sentence. It's a spiritual initiation into the next chapter of your life. That moment when you speak what God has whispered to your spirit, when you boldly declare what your faith can see but your eyes cannot. That moment splits your story in two. There's the you that existed before you said it, and there's the you who was born the moment you did. That's the power of one divine declaration. It doesn't just forecast your destiny, it creates it.